What is up, Rad Potential YouTube? Welcome to today's video, the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to put this hybrid RX7, RX8 crazy conglomeration of internet madness together to prove a point that this potentially could be very great, or potentially it's going to be not worth all the extra effort and you should just build a stock Renesas, or just Bridgeport your stock Renesas, or just buy a reman Mazda engine and not mess with modifying and building your own engine, because sometimes the while you're in theirs can get pretty out of hand. So where are we sitting in the process of the engine build right now? You guys have seen me hopefully stack engines before. If this is your first engine stack on the Rad Potential YouTube channel, this isn't going to be the most crazy in-depth every single little detail of an engine build. I've got a video that already goes through all that. Go check it out. I will, however, in this video, show you just the different things for a Renesas that you'll need to know when stacking it. That's kind of just what we're going to focus on. Make this thing a little bit less technical, a little bit more just fun and enjoyable. So the first thing you got to do, clean all your parts. Irons, housings, front iron. Definitely get an engine stand that is taller than knee high, because I'm really tall and this is really short, and it really inconveniences my back having to put this together. But I built like 30 or so engines on this, so I don't know, be ashamed to cut it up. But get everything prepped, go through the checklist, make sure you've got all of your parts ready to rip to go together, and that you're not going to forget something. 10 extra seconds of preparation will save you approximately 2 hours of time, because if you're me, in the past, one time, I put an eccentric shaft in the engine backwards. You can, however, stack the whole engine up with the eccentric shaft in backwards, and then I figured it out when I went to put the flywheel on, and it was at, the wrong side. So, go through your checklist, make sure everything's good. One of the most special parts of the Renesas engine is the rotor. Now, we've discussed in the comments all the things that the hybrid kind of, the weird RX8 short apex seal and the scalloped things and all the stuff that a RX8 rotor is. And we've done tons of research, or at least I have, to tell you that, like, if you're deciding to use an RX8 rotor and something else because it's special and it's higher compression, it's honestly not quite worth the extra effort to put it in an old school 13B. However, there's special things about this that you need to know before you go to put together one of these engines. Is it has a scraper ring amongst the oil control rings. So back here, we've got our oil control rings and their O-rings. I've already got them installed. Make sure when you're doing this, at this point in your build, your rotor is now a front or a rear rotor. The oil control ring springs are directional. Right hand, round edge, down is the rear of the rotor. Now when you're putting your rotors in an RX8, they are directional. So you have these little scallops on here. Now you can see my big Sharpie mark that says rear. However, if you look at the rotor, there's gonna be a real small little stamped in serial number on here, maybe the weight of it, I don't know. But there's an RA. R means rear. The front rotor will say FA, or F something other letter, and a number. So make sure you have the front and the rear denoted for you. But your oil control rings are actually the front of the rear rotor, or the rear of the front rotor. So like that's where that directionality comes into place. So be aware of that. I've got other videos outlining all that. Go check that out. Looking at this rotor a little bit closer here, you can see the scraper ring right there. There's a little notch in it. You're basically going to start the scraper ring, which is solid. There's no O-ring in here. Right at that dimple. Make sure you put your spring in there under it. And you're kind of just going to work this thing around till it clips down into place. Make sure everything is springy, oil control rings included. Now we're ready to assemble this rotor, put the corner seals, side seals, and get this thing ready to go into the engine. This piece right here is literally from a roll of printer paper at my engineering firm where I used to work. It comes in a big cord, 36-inch plotter, beast mode printer, right? These come in the end of it to keep the paper from getting jacked up. Well, it works perfectly to hold your rotor such that as you're assembling it, see the bottom, there's a gap. It's like a little UFO or like a piece of cheese hat. The bottom of the rotor doesn't touch the ground now, so we can assemble the rotor without having seals fall out. One of the things I like to do is assemble my rotor on the bench, everything except the apex seals. It's noted front to back. Gives me like a whole separate mindset. Build the rotor, make sure we get all the directions right, front, rear, this, that, the other, all the corner seals, side seals that we clearanced and organized, all in the right spot. Number 3 corner seal, pink dot out. The rear of the rear rotor is done. So now we take the fancy printer thing and we're going to flip this over, and you're going to see that it's going to hold all of that up so it doesn't touch my workbench while I assemble the rest of it. Alright guys, front rotor going on, gear side down, assembled correctly, ready to rock. The grease holding all my side seals and corner seals in. When you put this one on here, you're going to hook it on that stack gear, point that thing straight up. And if you did all your porting right, none of these should fall out. Shaft all lubed up and ready to insert the E-shaft into the engine. I've never had this happen to me before, assembling an engine, but I got my rotor one tooth off on the stationary gear, so straight up on the E-shaft isn't straight up on the rotor. And I was like, man, it really looks like the apex seal is just going to fall out into the exhaust hole here, and that's because we're just wrong. So I'm going to slide the E-shaft back out. We're going to make an adjustment to the rotor, one tooth over, which now we're straight and centered. This deal should go back in here. Oh yeah, maybe that's why it struggled to go down that first time. I just missed the middle, because I was like, there's no way. Yeah, there we go. I was like, there's no way the apex seal goes unsupported across the exhaust port. You know, that's only a like peripheral port modified RX8 engine thing when you add the peripheral side, but it's neat to check and look. Just right here, I know you'll like, oh my gosh, he's spinning this thing like crazy. Well, I'll readjust the corner seals, but it's neat to see. Watch the corner seal as it passes over the ports. So we're looking at this spot right here. You can see the grease path comes in. And right here you can see that bridge doing its job. And the bridge is holding the corner seal up, sliding right through there. Plenty of support for that. Comes right through, passes around above it, ready to rip. Little pre-flight checklist before you put your first major housing or iron on. Coolant seals in, both haven't popped out yet, so I think we'll be good. Dowel pin O-ring, don't forget that O-ring. It's a real pain in the butt if you got to go back and put those back in there. RTV for the edges so we don't leak. I got to check my apex seal, make sure that those are still slide down, and we'll be ready to rock. A very important thing for Bridgeport engines is that when you are putting a two-piece apex seal in the engine, that you orient the second piece, the little corner, towards the center iron. Or if you're a full Bridgeport, you can still run two-piece seals, but just make sure that your bridge or anything isn't going to allow this little piece to fall out on either plate. But in our case, half bridge, we're going to put that right at the center. Shouldn't fall out. For the front rotor, when you're putting this together, this is the standard way you would do it, is drop the seal in, put the little corner on. But for the rear rotor, we're going to have to make sure we put these in upside down. Fortunately, the power seals come glued, super glued together, so we can do that. Ideally, this is the last time we see this part of the engine for a hot minute, so we're going to do a little post-flight checklist on this deal. Apex seals are in, all good. Side seals, corner seals, all in, all good. The front rotor is the one we put in there. Front, this is the front, just checking all the boxes, you know. The E-shaft is in the correct direction. The squirters are in the E-shaft. Just look at those really quick, make sure they didn't come out. I never tend to take them out, but might as well check it while we're here. Silicone, dowel pin, O-ring. Dowel pins are in and seated. The housing is on. The housing is the correct one. All good to go. Coolant seals didn't pop out. We are ready to Cirque du Soleil the center iron on. This center iron install is a little bit different than the REW engines we've been building because the coolant seals and everything are actually in the housings on this engine. So I don't have to really worry about this thing touching a whole bunch of stuff on the way down or coolant seals falling out of it. We just got to get it in there. We should be good. The old knee to the E shaft trick here. Bada bing, bada boom. Oh, I touched something. Come on, baby. You know you want it. Come on, right there. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, so let's get them lined up with the dowels. The dowels, like the town in Oregon. And then this deal should just... Last chance. No coolant seals popped out. Corner seals, everything's still good. This engine stand, like, it's just, she's on an angle today, you know? Oh, there she goes. The E-shaft is holding me up. Well, everything's good now. Front rotor points up, rear rotor points down. 180 out. Otherwise it won't go back together. The stationary gear won't go in. Coolant seals, dowel pin O-ring, silicone, ready to rock. And I checked the corner seals. How about that? Almost like we've done this a time or two before. We know what we're doing. Nice. Remember what I said. These apex seals. We got to put the corner pieces down for the Bridgeport. 6 for 6 apex seals going in. What a convenience. Alright, so this is another one of those, ideally we never have to see this part of the engine again until we're like putting turbos on this thing and putting rotors in that are machined for 3mm apex seals so we can cram unlimited amounts of boost into this engine and like solid dowels, maybe some extra dowels. Eventually, I'm going to take this back apart and we're going to put, like the car is going to be turbo. And we're going to rebuild this and make it a beast. So for those of y'all expecting to see like this engine run 10,000 miles on the street in 42 track days, honestly that's probably not what's going to happen, because I'm just going to put this together, we're going to run it for a while like this NA, and then we're going to go turbo. I mean, it might last NA longer than I think, as far as like I've got other projects planned. Go check out the Patreon. But I'm excited to see what it does. You know, who knows? It's a learning experience. Everybody, there was a really funny comment. At least I laughed out loud. Comment reads, everyone who builds a hybrid goes into witness protection and we never hear from them again. See ya. I just laughed. I was like, okay, I'll go find all the people who build hybrids, because we'll prove that it works or doesn't right after this. Let's just put the rear iron on and we'll be stacked and racked. Stacked. There's a big O-ring left over. I wonder where it goes. Don't forget this O-ring on your RX8 or your like late model RX7. You will think your rear main seal is leaking and you will never find it. On an RX8 Rennie, this goes on the rear iron. Just like that. Before you put your stationary gear in. Which I still got to put a new rear main seal in this, but I can do that once it's out. We've now reached one of my favorite parts of building a rotary engine, which is trying to guess the end play before I put my gauge on here. So, end play is how much the eccentric shaft can move back and forth. There's a spacer in the front stack. It's pretty simple to kind of understand, like thrust in a piston engine where you have like thrust washers and all that. Anyways, I feel like this is too much. Shot in the dark, 26. Oh man, I was honestly really close. It's gonna be very hard for you guys to see this, but my guess, 26. Right here on the gauge, you're gonna see this thing move. Look at this. It's probably 20 or 21. So I believe the spec off the top of my head is 14 to 28, 10 thousandths. So it's 0.0028 and 0.0014, and that's in inches. So this thing only goes down to 0.001s. So you kind of gotta approximate the rest, but we're moving just a tad over 2 ticks on the gauge. Well, I don't hear any pulses that sound weaker or stronger than the rest. Everything sounds pretty good. Like I said, I like to build a clean engine, so I'm not gonna have to shovel out a ton of assembly lube, cranking this thing over by hand or starting it up the first time. What I will do before I like dress this engine up to go in the car is I will squirt some 2-stroke oil in there and turn it over just to help lubricate it. But I like to let all of my high tack, the silicone, all the seals that you put in this engine kind of seat up and dry up before you just saturate everything with oil. Now that I'm done stacking the hybrid engine, we have a very important decision to make. Does the hybrid engine continue as planned and go in the green car as it sits right now? We just pop it in there and go, or do we put it in the yellow one? Or, here's another thought, do we put it in some other RX8 that's not green? Because here's the deal, guys. I do have an REW that we could put in the green car and make the green car turbo and fast. REW turbo fast, not Renesas hybrid turbo fast. The other thing that we could do is I kind of have a line on another RX8 that's blown up and it's red. And here's the deal. If you're looking at a YouTube thumbnail, does the green RX8 just make you want to click on it? I don't know. But the yellow RX8 really gets your attention, so why not have a red RX8 instead of the green one? I don't know. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. But however, by the time you watch this video, I might already be on another adventure to pick up another RX8 because, well, sometimes you just can't pass up good deals, and this one came up for a pretty good price with pretty low miles, catastrophic engine failure, and I'm kind of excited to see this thing and see if I can make a deal on it. Obviously, I don't need more RX8s. We have a blue one sitting out there, we got the yellow one, we got this one, but there's just like, we gotta have a purpose for everything, and you know, bright colors, gotta love bright colors versus the green one, which is like, it's a perfectly good running driving car right now. It really, I'm too good at taking apart running and driving cars to really take apart another one, right? So drop it down in the comments below. What do you think? We put it in the yellow car, which right now they both run, so it's the same amount of work each way. Yellow car, green car, unknown condition, other red RX8 that I could potentially buy, or maybe we just find another RX8 in general that's a brighter color if we want a brighter color. So you guys let me know. What do you think in the comments on which car we're gonna pick? Because, you know, the green machine's pretty good. It's real good. With that, thank you guys so much for watching the video. It's another engine stacking video, but I hope you guys learned something new. Not that much different than stacking up a normal 13B REW, an old school 13B turbo, S4, NA, you name it. All the rotary engines are basically conceptually the same. There's some little nitpicky things different here and there, but if you can build one of them, you can pretty much do any of them. And I hope you guys learned something in this video. If not, at least drop a comment below what we should put the hybrid half Bridgeport Renesas engine in. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep it rad. We'll see you in the next one. Alright guys, post stack video, we're going to do a little shop walk around. I don't think I did this in the last one. Maybe I did. Was the last video me walking around with the camera? Maybe I'm just in a walk around in the camera mood. I got to put the slides back on, and then this thing, I'm going to drive it to Cars and Coffee this weekend. So I got the pan sealed up, all the drains are all good. You'll see that in its own video, all the details. The green car just looks so good. But I'm so used to making thumbnails with my bright yellow RX8 that the green one, I was like, oh my gosh, I had to go put a yellow shirt on just to make the thumbnail pop. Rally car, awaiting some tinkering. RX7's doing RX7, and I'm just stoked. I'm stoked you guys are enjoying the videos. I'm stoked to be making videos. We're out here burning the midnight oil, guys. Burning the midnight oil. It is literally 1 a.m. Fire me up. Peace, guys.